Hi, my name is Catherine Messick, and this is my video response for Module 1. Um, so the video response, I'm just going to kind of hit on all the different questions and then give my 2 cents about what each video kind of supplied. The first question was the access to free and appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. This is a tricky question because technically, school districts all over the United States, including in my home state of Missouri, who I've unfortunately had very personal experience with this, as long as they offer some sort of program within the district, they are in compliance. So technically in the first video, even though the parents are not happy about the situation and they don't feel that their child should have to go to the Kennedy school, technically they are in compliance by offering a position or a placement for their child. Least restrictive environment, because there is some general education offerings at the Kennedy School, they are also getting away with it. And so that, as a parent myself of a child with special education needs, this was a severe argument that I had with our own homeschool district, as my child also is bused 20 minutes away to a autism program versus the less than 5 minutes away to our home elementary school, for the sole purpose that they would not provide a full-time para or aide in the classroom. So I kind of hit home for me on that one. As for the second video, clearly they were offering free and appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. And when it comes to participation, that second video really knocked it out of the parkway. You have everyone from school psych, a principal, a teacher, a SPED teacher, the mom, the child himself, the tutor, and the para. So every stakeholder that this child would be around or his educational needs would need to be met with seemed to be in that room. And they all worked collaboratively and actually provided information about the child. Whereas you have the school district special education director, the SLP from the Kennedy School, and then both parents, and then a first grade teacher. So to me, you're missing out on some major stakeholders. Like, where's the special education teacher from that local school, the Jones Elementary School? Where you're just missing some major people. So I think that's a big part of why that participation piece is kind of missing a little bit of something in that first video. Acceptance of students' position and or that of his family. Clearly in the first video, they came in knowing that they needed to place this child at the Kennedy school, and were not really willing to take into consideration any of the thoughts and feelings. It seemed like it was kind of this is what we're going to do, this is what you need to decide to do. Whereas I think it was very much a collaborative effort in that second video. It was very obvious that everyone had been working together as a large team to make sure that all of the child's needs were met, Jacob's needs were met. Achievement opportunities for the student to excel and reach his or her full capacity. That's a tough one. The problem is we did not get a whole lot of information about the child in the first video. They didn't talk about any of his past results, his past, present, or even his future outcomes. And so there's not really any referencing of achievement. Whereas in the second video, they went over test scores and they talked about how on the coming up state testing, that they thought the child would actually do really well in math because he was excelling in math, but that he was a little bit behind in language. So, I think the problem is you have no data to support whether there would be any achievement or not in that first video. Whereas in the second video, it seemed like, they were kind of setting up for what likely outcomes would be and areas they needed to focus on in order to receive that achievement. The attitudes of the professionals in the room in the first video, my way or their highway, kind of. The special education director for the school district really just wasn't going to see any other way around it, didn't even come up with offering any sort of opportunity for the child to be able to stay at that Jones school instead of the Kennedy school. And so I think that they were not collaborative in any way, shape, or form. They were literally, this is what we're going to give you and this is what you need to take. Whereas in the second group, everybody had a really positive attitude about what they want to do. Everybody was willing to step up. Oh, okay, I can make those visual aids. I can do those things. I can make a visual schedule for him. Oh, yeah, I can send one home with you. I mean, it was just very positive about, okay, how can we help him? Whereas I think in the first video, it was like, this is what the district will provide, and not really any indication as to what actual things that are going to be available for them. I mean, they don't talk about any sort of hearing impaired, um, you know, teaching of like sign language. They don't talk about any sort of processing. We don't know if he has a cochlear implant. We know nothing about this child other than the fact that they're arguing about which school to go to, but they haven't gone over any data to support either decision. So I think that's the big end of this, is that you have to have a positive attitude if you are working with parents, and you need to be willing to go that extra mile to make sure that all students can succeed. And so even though maybe that first district is technically meeting the criteria of free and appropriate public education, they're not doing so in the best interest of the family or of the child. They're doing it in their interest of being in compliance. And unfortunately, I see a lot of school districts going that direction. And I wish more school districts were like the second video. And I will say, in my own experience, I have found that the elementary school that my son has gone to is much more like that second video, but the school district addressed us like in the first video. And I think that's the big problem. Being an educator, and having my husband in the district, we had a lot more knowledge going into the placement and our own decisions about who would actually really be best, you know, personality and attitude, positive attitude wise, with my own son. However, I mean, if I didn't work for the district, or my husband didn't work for the district, there's no way that we would have any confidence going into our decision making if we had no knowledge. And so I think that first video is really like telling of, this is what's severely wrong with a lot of the school districts across the United States. Compliance is not all that. It's, you know, you're not actually helping the child, you're just helping yourself be compliant. So that's all. Thanks.